Hello, this is Dakota Chapman for the UDL lesson plan. After reviewing and dissecting one of the videos in this unit, um, it became clear, of course, that this was a mathematics content area, focused, of course, towards middle school students. The lesson was co-taught between a general education teacher and a special education teacher. And the lesson was, of course, focused on coordinate planes and understanding, the difference between quadrant 1 and quadrant 2 and quadrant 3 and quadrant 4 and how to dissect where points are at. Now, I thought the teacher did a fantastic job, using UDL to engage the students. I thought that was a very great job of her using discussion. I mean, there was discussion all throughout the room. She had questions that she would continually ask the students. There was opportunities for students to answer the questions. And there was support from the teacher and the co-teacher throughout the entire lesson plan. So that positive classroom culture was definitely essential to what they were trying to accomplish and helping the students understand coordinate planes. And there was multiple opportunities for students to participate. Now, I do feel like in terms of UDL, what was missing was some student choice in activities. I think that definitely led to some lack of engagement at times. I also think that there was not a very clear tie to student interest in terms of content. The only thing that brings, it comes back to my memory is one of the initial questions when the teacher talked about the Battleship. Has anybody played Battleship? And how a coordinate plane is kind of like Battleship. And beyond that, there really wasn't much connection to student interest. There wasn't a really true goal-setting opportunity for students. There was no clear, showing of, hey, you've achieved this level of understanding. And there wasn't really an opportunity for students to, who might have a better understanding, to challenge themselves into a deeper learning atmosphere. So I feel like in terms of multiple means of engagement, that was kind of some highs and some lows of that lesson. Now, when you move to multiple means of representation, I feel like the teacher represented information through, verbal explanations. She was great about explaining different things to the students. She did a great job explaining all the mathematics involved with coordinate planes, how points come to be, how they get their coordinates, what each coordinate is, a great way to help remember coordinates from the co-teacher. Of course, she did that through visual modeling on the board. She also had her big coordinate plane in the middle of the classroom so students could also participate in the lesson. I think that goes back to engagement as well. And of course, there were step-by-step demonstrations that students were able to follow. These were all visual and verbal instruction, which is huge. Students definitely learn different ways. And of course, students could see and not only see, but they could hear the information. Now, in terms of representation, there wasn't really any graphic organizers that we could truly see in this lesson. There may have been, later on that were handed out, but in this one, all I really had was the coordinate plane on the floor, the coordinate plane on their desk, and the coordinate plane on the screen. There wasn't any type of videos or interactive simulations that you find a lot of times online now that you can use. So that was something that was missing in terms of representation. Really, she did hit on a few vocabulary terms like origin, terms like that quadrant 1, quadrant 2, and didn't really explain. She explained what they meant, but didn't really offer vocabulary support for those terms. She did not provide alternative formats for students, with language maybe or learning difficulties. It was kind of, the end-all be-all was what she was showing on the board. And then there wasn't anything for, translation support, which you never know if she needed it, but you just don't see it in the video, so it's not clear truly if that was represented in the video. And then moving on to multiple means of action and expression. Of course, students were able to demonstrate they were learning by answering questions. Every time the teacher asked a question, the student was raising their hand or even blurting out the answer, but they were, responding and expressing their answer to the teacher. They did it by solving mathematical problems. And not only that, they would get up and, toss their beanbag on the coordinate plane to participate in the lesson. That goes back to completing classroom assignments. I think that was huge for the students. Now, some shortfalls of multiple means of action and expression are going to be there wasn't a lot of technology-based responses. There wasn't alternative methods for students to be able to demonstrate that they understand what's going on in the lesson. There wasn't really any collaborative projects that students could use. There was some partner work at the end, but it wasn't really true collaborative work that students could show and their understanding of the material. There wasn't any explanations from students of exactly what they fully understood about coordinate planes or how to find points or how each quadrant works. So that was, some kind of things that were missing from the multiple means of action and expression. Now, in terms of what I would kind of do differently, I think I would definitely be able to measure some goals. So I would put some goals out there for students, whether it's a learning target, whether it's a, goal that you need to meet before you reach a level of understanding or achievement, but something that they can truly measure in terms of how do I know I've accomplished what I need to in order to understand this material. I think that's definitely something that you could add into. I think in terms of assessments, they're really the only assessment in this was, did you respond to the teacher? If you respond to the teacher with the correct answer, then the teacher's probably going to understand that you are understanding and have a good a grasp on the material. But if you don't respond, maybe you're a quiet student, there's no really true way to tell and assess what a student may know. So I would definitely add in some type of true assessment to be able to measure all the students' capabilities of understanding the material. In terms of methods, I think I would allow students maybe some more options in how they learn. And that could be maybe some independent partner, small group work. They kind of decide on their own. Another thing I think in terms of methods, I think you have to, especially to keep engagement in your classroom, is incorporate some real world math. Now I know coordinate planes is a little bit difficult. I thought she did a great job bringing up, as I mentioned before, the battleship game. I think that's a great way to kind of engage the students in terms of coordinate planes. And if there's, maybe there's something online that you could use battleship game wise, maybe somebody's created a game where they could, play on a coordinate plane and use that not only to have a little bit of fun, but also to learn and develop their skills with coordinate planes and understanding the different quadrants and how points get their set points. I think she could definitely again provide some different learning opportunities for students. That could include some different methods or materials in terms of, if your students, if you're able to assess that students understand more, you might be able to give them some more difficult problems. But I think that all depends on, again, how you assess students, where you set the goal to be, and how students, respond to that and show you their understanding. So that's definitely some ways I feel like UDL was seen in this lesson, but I also feel like it could be better developed and better used and better executed, really, if you use some of these methods that I've mentioned already.